really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbifs Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby, the top 14, Pro D2, Nationale, the Champions and Challenge Cups, the French national team at blur, most importantly of all the brilliant towns, cities, bars, restaurants, people, fans, stadium stories, everything that makes the French rugby experience such a magnificent, whatever you want to call it, Rob. It's Series 4. I'm lost for words. We're back. We've made it through the summer. Hopefully a few listeners have made it back as well, and maybe even a few new ones. But how have you been? How have you been coping with the extensive 10 to 15 day French rugby hiatus?
I would love to have said that, I've been fit and healthy and playing loads of cricket and doing lots of healthy things, but in typical fashion, I've got injured and I've ended up finding myself with not much else to do but get on the beers. So it's not been a particularly healthy few weeks.
Been a hot summer.
It has not been a hot summer. Well, it has, but yeah, it's very easy to find excuses to drink this summer, isn't it? And I'm still feeling a little bit from our weekend away, Richard. A little bit snivelly.
Yeah. Rob and I had the great pleasure of a friend's stag do over the weekend, which I think all the cliches of takes a little bit longer to recover from than yesteryear are ringing ever more true every time one of these things takes place. Slightly frustratingly as well, I had the week off before that, and I was in West Wales. I was a bit of running, bit of beaching, bit of kind of early morning walks. It was all very virtuous, and it felt like kind of all of that got well and truly blown out of the water by copious amounts of fairly lukewarm lagers over the weekend, but it was a lot of fun. So never mind.
Yeah, I kind of came into it the opposite of fresh. Battle hardened after my weekend at home on holiday, a week on holiday, which was a kind of all the festivities in our village. Did get to see the goat of the greasy pole. One of the highlights of the CV Village Regatta. The Greasy Pole went to a 3-way playoff. 2 legends of the game were in it, and the GOAT unfurled a 10 out of 10 to reach the end. He needed to get 9 or better, and the GOAT, Dan Drury, if you know, you know, got to 10. Unreal scenes, absolutely unreal scenes. Crowd of nearly 1,000, I reckon. Genuinely, it was, I haven't shown you. I don't think I've shown you the video. It was wild.
I feel like that might need to go up on some of our socials for a bit of context as a kind of.
I slide into DMs, an early request to slide into DMs. It's a bit out of context to French rugby, unless we kind of superimpose a Brenner shield on the end in the sea, maybe that he could land on. Maybe that could make it a French rugby twist.
Bar the landing in the drink, it does feel like the sort of thing you might see happening out the back of a Pro D2 ground on a Friday night. A little bit of a link there. But we are back. We're back, Rob. Series 4. As we keep pressing on with this series thing, a la a sort of late 90s BBC box set rather than the HBO's Netflix big budget stuff. It's good to be back. If you have been listening for a while, then welcome back. If you haven't, then welcome, and hopefully you've stuck with us through tales of greasy poles and going a bit hard over the summer. I guess the main reason we're back, like we've got so much top 14 coming out. We've got some there's Nations
World
Cup
Cup,
stuff.
mate.
There's a World Cup that's going to kind of bookend the end of.
We're gonna have to find a gap of. I mean, looking ahead to the end of Series 4, we're gonna have to. I think we're gonna have a gap of like 3 days probably next summer before Series 5. I don't know when we cut it off, but yeah.
Who knows?
Could be a 400-day season coming ahead.
Who knows? But if you are joining for the first time, there'll be plenty of international stuff, plenty of top 14, plenty of the big boys to come. But the main reason we're back this week is it is the return of Pro D2, everyone's favourite second division, the greatest league.
Everyone's favourite league. It's everyone's favourite league. Enough of this second division. It's better than the top 14. It's better than.
Tell me why. Tell any new listeners why.
Because no one really knows what's going on. That's why it's brilliant. No one really knows what's happening in Pro D2. As much as we love to kind of profess that we are experts in the English-speaking language, or the English-speaking experts on Pro D2. We just know slightly more than everyone else. Because there is so much to try and keep on top of. It is absolutely wild. The amount of coaching changes, I feel like, is the big one at the moment. There is, if you go through transfers, you see how many players left during the season. There are some players that have left for their clubs for various reasons because of car park fights last year. There is loan deals. So you've got loads of exciting young players. There's loads of loan deals in Pro D2 at the moment from some of the big clubs and guys that have played under 20 stuff for France and other nations out on loan in Pro D2. That's really exciting. Crowds keep increasing. Average attendances are enormous these days. Televised games, we can watch them for free, hopefully, we think, on FR UK this season. We haven't seen that much of it this year, but yeah, why not? What's not to love? Go on, Richard. Why is it the best league in the world? Why is it better than the top 14, for example?
Well, I think the original term used was Wild West. There is a fantastic, amidst the ever growing quality of squads, there is a real old school, almost kind of amateurism to it, which I think the car park fight from last year being the perfect kind of symbol of that ethos. You do get some brazen moments of of ill discipline. Some
good old school like right hooks last year as well in games.
There are a couple of clips, weren't there? Yeah, there are
a couple of real dog shots as well.
Yeah, which we don't, which I think in a car park, fair play. But let's keep that in the car park away from the rugby pitch and sort it out fully old school. I think you've also got, and we'll maybe talk a little bit about this in a moment, but there's a big disparity in any kind of professional league now, but actually the disparity in kind of budgets and resources between some of the teams make for this like really fascinating blend of just a really interesting way games or teams can approach games throughout the season. Some squads have vastly more depth than others. And actually, some of the sides that have the smallest squads are the ones that have kind of showcased and succeeded the most in recent years. There is a real place in Pro D2 for exceptional coaching, exceptional recruitment over just sort of big budgets that, obviously tell, and they tell in Pro D2. But yeah, I think what we've seen the last few years, and there's been a real increase in the number of away wins in particular, is it's a far less predictable league than it has been in perhaps years gone by, or certainly when we started doing this, not even kind of 2-3 years ago. So yeah, it's awesome. And then also you've just got like some of the places, the grounds, the stadiums, they are part of places like Dax, Oyonnax, these tiny towns, like outposts where the rugby really is the sort of beating heart of that place. And I think the players kind of wear that on their sleeve as well. Hence some of the fights, which makes it really good fun. Yeah, it's great fun. And I think, and we're about to get stuck right into this, it looks from a distance like maybe the trickiest to call in terms of what's going to happen this year, certainly that I can remember, and that's amidst a league that is notoriously difficult to call.
I want to come in one thing that we kind of always say, and we've still got it as one of our pinned reels, like our why we love Pro D2. One of the things is interfering presidents, or the ownership, or club the names. I can kind of always never quite work out. I think you have a chairman and a president, or there's not always intercheck. Clubs use it differently as to which bloke is running the show and which bloke is putting in the cash, and it's quite often the same person, but not always. And where better to start than with Nissa Rugby? I guess you've kind of got some of the heartlands, but Nissa, Stade Niçoise as they were, Nice, not traditionally like a proper hotbed growing in terms of rugby. The Riviera is more of a football area. They did get promoted. They were then relegated for not having kind of financial backing. This is quite a big thing in Pro D2 for clubs needing to have, first of all, they're all professionals, and the league regulator enforces that you have to show proof of funds and you have to prove out your budget and how you're going to be profitable, and clubs can't be showing debt. Quite often that is filled by a big cash investor, but you at least have to prove that out to the regulator. So you do see a lot of these kind of 1 or 2 point or 5, or in the case of Dax last season, 14 point financial penalties, where there is the kind of financial regulator goes in and looks at the accounts, looks at the forecast and doesn't agree with it or doesn't feel they're supported. But in part of that, Nissa Rugby got promoted. Then the regulator said that they weren't able to support the funds that they'd kind of put in their budget, so they were going to get automatically relegated back, and they weren't get all their Pro D2 promotion was going to be wiped out. They appealed. It was successful. They found the funds, or they proved the funds, and they are in Pro D2 with a very ambitious project. I would say that's probably why there was a bit more stringent checks on the proof of funds. That and the fact that the guy in charge, Jean-Baptiste Auger, has history of this in terms of leading clubs down the garden path with funds and then them not materialising.
Yeah, and it's
that was about 1.5 minutes on a saga that no doubt could have gone on for about 4 hours. It could be like a 5-part Netflix documentary.
And interestingly, I think it was he who kind of resigned owing to a bit of a funding gap that was agreed with the municipality of Nice or something. But it is his business, or the business that he's a kind of majority shareholder in, that has stumped up this cash. Even though he tendered his resignation, so I don't quite know what's gone on. But I think excitingly for the league and I think some of these kind of like financially perilous situations we come across have become a little bit, I don't know. I mean, last year in Nationale, there were two clubs went bust, and the year before,
Brest were also
Carcaran went bust as well. So like these things can be quite precarious. But Nissa
last year, Predator started with 3 clubs on minus points. I want to say Biarritz, Béziers, and Dax. I think it was only 3.
And I think Nissa have got a little 2-point suspension or something for this.
2-point suspension,
2-point suspended. I never quite know how it all works out. It's always a bit.
I wonder if it's like Toulouse's 2-point suspension, where they commit another crime and it kind of gets suspended again.
2 points added on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
have another Brennus.
But anyway, I think key place to start, because that was the big noise over the summer, and also confirmed that Mont-de-Marsan, who got relegated last year, who have been a huge club in Pro D2 and reached a Pro D2 final, I think as recently as 2022 perhaps, are confirmed as down in Nationale. But Nissa, interesting place to start. Hugely ambitious. Pretty decent budget as well, and we've got all the budgets to run through in a moment if we need to, and some really exciting signings in there as well. Like they've splashed some cash, and they've splashed it on some proper players. How do you approach the 16-man or 16-team kind of chaos league of Pro D2 as by way of an intro to the season and a preview ahead of, I think, the first round of games is all taking place this Thursday night, bar one on Friday, which is usually the other way around, which is quite good fun.
Who's going to win Pro D2, Richard? There you go. Who are the title contenders?
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying. I think Provence got to the final last year, have been sniffing around for years. Excellent coaching setup, decent amount of cash, very funky training kit, importantly. Have recruited well, as they always do. And I think they're probably the team to beat.
I think they could be quite by some way the team to beat. I think they've got the fewest flaws, which is one way of looking at most Pro D2 sides, but I think the way they finished last season, they got very close to toppling a near record-breaking van, and they've recruited pretty well. They've lost a few big names, but they've made a couple of other really good signings. So I think Provence the team to beat for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
They will miss, I think they miss Caleb Muntz for the Pacific Nations Cup, but they've got options because they've kind of covered the holes that they ended up with because of the amount of injuries and retirements last season. I think they've covered those holes pretty well.
Yeah, I don't think it will be. I don't see a team. I was
they're confident
the van were going to be far too good last year. But I think they will be the best side. I think arguably the more interesting question is what tucks in alongside or behind that. I think a team that came really good towards the end of last season, whose operating budget is actually fairly middling in Pro D2, which I was quite surprised about, is Oyena, who, well, I mean, they're very recently a top 14 side, always have big ambitions. I think anything other than top six would be a pretty serious failure. But there are some really interesting signings in there as well. They've lost a few guys, as everyone has. But I think what's notable is they've got some kind of proper top 14 experience and quality coming in. And I think we've both actually in our little kind of show your workings, the three guys that really stand out in that. Thomas plural, Darmon and Vincent, both from Montpellier. Alex Newsom, he played a lot of rugby as a proper first team player at Claremont. And then, there's a few others sneaking about in there as well. A guy called Liam Coombs Fabling, who looked really good. A few little clips of him at the Chiefs in Super Rugby. Yeah, just feels like a team that have sprinkled in a bit of purpose in their signings, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I was a little bit worried that they weren't going to have a 10 because Zach Holmes has been let go. I don't know if he's gone anywhere else. I don't think he's retired or anything, but he became their first choice 10. They had an excellent win record with him at 10. They had Justin Burrow, who was brilliant in the first half of the season, who has gone to Claremont. So I was a little bit worried they didn't have like a proper 10 in the same way as like Kayla Muntz or Sam Davis or someone like that. But Thomas Vincent, I think, is a pretty good option. He was really good, I thought, at Agen a couple of seasons ago. It didn't work out for him at Montpellier. It kind of felt like they signed a few options to try out for not a lot and then eventually plumped with Miotti. I think Thomas Vincent will suit their style of play. He's got a good left boot, kicks long. I think Thomas Darmon is a really good player. Like, he has had some big games in some big games, which is a pretty key player in like Challenge Cup and top 14. So, stepping down to Pro D2, we have seen that these guys that are used to playing at the elite level, and I mean kind of top tier competitions, that when they do step down and they're not like, pensioning themselves off for retirement, that they are really, really good players. So I think that you've got three quality signings. I think Alex Newsom's a really good signing. Like, it's not that long ago he was first choice fullback in a team that was top 6 in the top 14. Like, it's a sort of signing that like Provence and Brive and Van were making last season. So yeah, they kind of did it the season before with Vivas and guys like that. I think they've got a good squad.
Yeah. I'm interested to know where you think so three sides that maybe I'm kind of grouping them together because of their sort of geography, but three teams that I think are really interesting in the mix for this year are Agen, Colomiers, who was so good last season, and Montauban obviously came down having had a complete horror show in the top 14, and the previous year Van came down and it felt like a given that they would be kind of top of the pile, and I think it's pretty clear that's probably not the case. However, they have recruited quite well as well. Where do you see the sort of varying fortunes of those three kind of, I guess, Pro D2 heavyweights for want of a better grouping?
I'll go in order of where they finished up last year. Montauban are going to be terrible for the first 10 games because we've seen that before. I think they'll do what happened to Oyonnax the previous year. It happened to Brive the year before that. I think they will really. I think there's so much of it. There's got to be so much of a hangover from last year because that was a horror show. They weren't ready for top 14. They've already been pumped. It wasn't at home. I think it was in Cahors or something like that. But they got pumped in pre-season by Aurillac. I think they will, the shock of Pro D2, and there'll be an element of like, well, we won it a couple of years ago, and actually how many of those players they have left. I think they'll struggle first like few games. However, Sebastian Tiller's board, when they got promoted, did a fantastic job, and the coaching staff did a brilliant job. They have made some excellent signings, and I feel like they've actually got rid of the players who might have borne some of the scars of last year, and it kind of, I quite like, it's wrong, it'd be wrong to call them Deadwood, but I like the refresh that they've made with their squad. There's a few guys like on big money, long-term injured, like Lozana, the Argentinian bloke, Tukelet, guys like that. I imagine Notche, who played tonight on against the All Blacks for free 10 bet or whatever it is. No, it was like 10 bet Lions or whatever they're called now. But yeah, like guys like that, I think slightly older, they've let go. So yeah, I kind of like their squad refresh. I just think it will take some time. Who was next? Colomiers, tough. Colomiers could finish anywhere between 2nd and 12th, I think. I think it probably will be top 6, but you look at the caliber of players that they don't have this year, that they did have last year. You've got their 2 most physical players for the last 2 seasons in Caleb Timu, number 8, and Ray Nu'u, who were brilliant. And Tuatavuki as well, another really physical player they had on the wing. Thomas Adelaide, who was excellent in the second row, made our Pro Day team of the season. He's not there anymore. You've got X Factor guys like Rodrigo Marta, who's gone to Po. Delpy was obviously brilliant last year as a future French international, like future starting 10 for Toulouse. He's no longer on loan. So they look like the quality of players that they've lost is really good. However, they have got some really good signings to kind of counter that. Like Shamal Bento is an excellent guy that used to Pro de Portuguese international. They get Thibaut de Bice, who I think is the perfect player for them. He's kind of former Po, was excellent at Van last year, and last few years actually. And then they get Lucas Vignes, who's we've seen a bit of at centre for Toulouse. I think that's a really cool signing. And then shout out our man Steve Cummins, one of our
back in France.
Back in France. If you need height, they need physicality in the line out. They've got him. Pirate Steve.
Nice touch that. Yeah, I think Colomiers is interesting because you look through it, and I think I've always been a little bit guilty of sort of underestimating Colomiers. They are very well coached. They're very shrewd in their recruitment as well, particularly with that ability to sneak players through from sort of like the Toulouse Academy or Espoirs or guys who are just starting out. So I've no doubt that'll make a huge impact. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe just miss the top 6. I think purely because just as you say, the sheer quality, like they have maybe with the exception of Plateauret lost 6 of their 7 best players.
Yeah.
If you put it in like real simpleton terms. So, but yeah, fascinating to see how they kind of spin it round.
I think with them, and I'll link this to Argen. Colomiers had a clear Achilles heel last year in the real big games of lack of physicality, and they got dusted at scrum time against Van in the semis. They got dusted by someone in the knockouts at scrum time, but they did struggle in a few games up front, and they haven't. I don't think there's nothing in the signings that says they've signed like some big old units in the front row. Maybe. But that suits their style of play. Maybe they're going to play even faster this year and run teams off the park. But I don't see enough in their signings to kind of think that they've covered that. Argen is an interesting one in comparison because they basically lose their 3 first-choice tight heads, of which some were the best in the league. Like Alex Buran, Lasha Masharashvili were really good last year. Bo Farrance had a lot of injuries, but he was really good when he came back from injury. And I think they lose a load of loosehead props as well, who played a load of game time. So it is it's a bit of an interesting one to kind of, and they were pretty good at scrum time last year. However, they have also signed quite a lot of props, like of their kind of ins and outs. I think it's 6 props out, 6 senior props out, and 5 senior props in. So it's, they have kind of covered it a little bit. One of them, Enrique Pieretto, has played for Italy. He was at Zebre last year. The one I'm looking out for is Gael Galvan, who is former Argentina under-20s from La Rochelle, and he is in the La Rochelle prop mould. He was absolutely enormous in the world under-20s a couple of years ago. I can't imagine he's got smaller at La Rochelle.
Yeah, it is a real turnover, isn't it? They've also got in
some experienced Pro de halfbacks as well. Like Boissou and Soulan from Nevers and Provence. I quite like that.
Yeah, it feels very deliberate, doesn't it? They've kind of tried to refresh that pack ever so slightly. They've also got,
I should say, they've got really good academy, and the guys, the reason why they did well is the academy players came through. They'll all be a year older now, and I think that counts for a lot. They improved at the back end of the season, or they got good again at the back end of the season. Sorry, Rich. I know who you're
No,
talking
they've
about.
all,
He's a good player.
yeah, Lucian Richardis. He is Spanish, well, Spanish first choice 10, I think. Can play 10 or 15, and because he plays for Toulouse, probably pretty much anywhere else in between as well, I'd imagine. But he is maybe not quite yet hasn't played as much as like a Delpy had by that point, but I think is certainly seen as a similar-ish type of prospect, maybe a little bit earlier in his career. So yeah, very cool one for them. And I think Argen, I don't know, I'm feeling quite optimistic about Argen this year.
Yeah, and I actually have, of those three teams in my predicted table, I have Argen fourth, Colomiers fifth, Montauban sixth. Because of what I think about Montauban's start of the season. I think they could finish sixth and they could get to the final.
Yeah.
But I think they'll be like languishing early on, unless you think I've gone mad. One team we haven't spoken about there that isn't a million miles away from Argen, at least. Brive, where do you see them? Big budget, one of the biggest budgets historically. A team that definitely has aspirations of being a top 14 side. Biggest stadium or biggest average attendance, because I think Grenoble would be the biggest stadium, wouldn't it? As with Béziers, and Béziers would be bigger, but they fill it out way more often than those two teams.
Yeah.
Where do you see Brive this year?
I think again I think they will comfortably fit in that top six. They've had pretty big turnover in terms of squad exits and not that many new signings. They've brought
fans aren't happy with the turnover, but then when are Brive fans happy?
Yeah, and I do wonder if it feels like a bit of a. I think I saw earlier actually, and it might have been noted in Francisco Isaac's article, who's, if you don't follow already, very excellent for Pro Day Dirt stuff. So big up Francisco, but. I think it was in his article that had a little bit on some of the budgets. It's actually 4 million down on last year on their operating budget. I don't think that's all come out of the playing staff, because that would be, but I imagine a significant amount of that is wrapped up in some of those big name kind of departures of some experienced kind of slightly older guys, Lawses and Bosches and Tapwise and people like that. And I do just wonder if, different league, different scenario, but a little bit like what Racing tried to do last year in the top 14 and take a bit of onus off these star names. I think the key thing though is the coaching ticket, right? Greg Petit, outstanding coach. Obviously it all went a bit weird with Bayonne last year, but the year before that when he had the reins, he did brilliant things. Their best ever season in the top 14. I think that is an incredible guy right now to have. Whether Brive is a tricky place to coach, feels like it's torched a few very good coaches over the years, but that's exciting. And then under that as well, Fabien Fortissan, who I think would probably be, if you had to have a coach of the season in Pro Day last year, I think there's an argument that he would, what he did with Valence, the style of rugby they played, and he's there as a kind of backs and attack coach, right? So I think with, what is, okay, they've lost a few, but what should be quite a settled squad.
Halfbacks are settled, Cooney and Shilcock.
I think they'll be.
That helps.
I think they might be a little bit more. They were just so hot and cold, weren't they, last season? They produced some brilliant performances. There's one near the end of the season where they completely toasted Colomiers away from home, who had been in brilliant form. And I think they'll be wanting to see a little bit more consistency from them. So yeah, I think probably top six, probably top three.
I've got them third behind Provence and Oyonnax. They could easily be higher, but I'm placing a lot of weighting on that. The quality of that coaching setup. I think that is not far off like ideal for what you'd want in Pro Day. I can't think of a better number one and number two in terms of across the league. And also like you'd take that in the top 14. Like if you got promoted, you'd be quite happy with that to at least have a go at staying up at the top 14. So
yeah, and I'd imagine there were points last year when I think we were saying that Fortissan must be on the books of a lot, or must be in the sort of headlights of a lot of top 14 clubs. And I do wonder if this is almost seeing it as maybe the fastest way there. And probably a decent bit of cash as well being Brive. But yeah, exciting sort of starts to the season for them. I think if I was a Brive fan, I'd be feeling optimistic despite perhaps the lack of signings.
His former club, Valence Romans, one of the story of the season last year. The guys played a lot of rugby. it was a relatively small squad. They haven't added loads to it, but I do like who they've added to it. In particular, Marco Tolene from Montpellier, really, really experienced player. I think the one that slips a little bit under the radar because he's still an espoir is Giga Tutisani from Clermont, who actually, towards the end of the season, was not far off like first choice tight head at Clermont, and I think was the Clermont won the Espoirs title with him at tight head and Frizak at loose head. I think he's massive. He's Georgian 22-year-old and he's enormous. I think he could be, this is a guy that will be challenging for the Georgia starting tight head jersey, which that's pretty useful, I think. I'm really intrigued to see how he goes. I think that could be a really, really cool signing.
Yeah.
But I think the guy that Tim Cocker says looks like me has taken over. The number 2 has taken over from number 1. I can't remember his name now. So I think it will be pretty settled. And I just think it might be a bit of second season syndrome in that they did so well. They can't quite, it's a little bit enough change to not keep progressing, I think.
Yeah, I wonder if I think we're kind of now talking a bit about the kind of chasing pack / slightly ahead of the drop. I think Valence, I'd like to think Valence won't be troubled by the drop, but I kind of agree. I maybe it's a bit of a cliched view, but I can't see how they have as successful a season as last year, and if they do, it's a massive testament to them. What they did do though is become actually, to be fair, over the last 2 seasons, they've become a very difficult side to beat at home, and they've got a style and way of playing. And they also have multiple ways they can kind of skin you and squeeze you to death with Mere's boot, which I think is still like, I'm sure he'll be eyeing up another 400 Pro Day points this year, whatever it might be. A team not a million miles from there that I think is really interesting is Grenoble, who,
I
before
really
last
could not
season,
work out where to place them. Really couldn't work out where to put them.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because last year it felt like kind of everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Like they had the like player strike threats, they had coaching changes, like bit of a mutiny type situation. They had Sam Davis, who was the best player in the league for the past 2, or probably certainly the season before, but probably the past couple of seasons, basically injured for the entire year, injured and then illness as well. And they also had a load of other injuries too, like some of the guys who'd been really critical to them barely played. And it's hard to know if, with some of those guys now gone and with some of the coaches moving on, have they over the course of a season become a bit more of a mid-table team? I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic that they might offer a touch more and should be really challenging for that top 6. A couple of interesting guys coming in like Fergus Lee Warner, James Fender, who's really highly rated from the Ospreys, Manuel Lindekar, who kind of stalwart as part of that or in our team. And actually, I tell you what, there are a lot of interesting moves amongst like the big ball carrying 8s.
Yeah,
so
they lose Sergio, don't they? But they gain Otanuku Palter. He's going to have a great time there.
Yeah, I think he'll get on just okay. Richard Hardwick as well has gone, hasn't he, to Colomiers?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's again, I don't know, but I think there should be enough there for them to be certainly at worst nudging top 6. I don't fully believe they've become a kind of like an also ran in the course of a season, and I think last year might be the aberration, but what I don't think we have anymore is that really dominant team who really should have been in the top 14.
Yeah, you managed to. I hadn't got around to looking at it. You managed to dig out the budgets. I think you got the Gautier Bodan ones, but they get reported to Rugby Rama as well. They are third. I mean, they're decent way behind Provence, but and a decent chunk behind Brive in terms of operating budgets. It doesn't look like a particularly deep squad, I would say, in terms of the senior players. They have always had or certainly in recent times, always had a good academy, and they're bringing through like Matisse Barre was brilliant last year as a young ball carrying number 8. That's brilliant offloading game. He will play a lot at number 8. Maybe that's why they let go of a couple. Hugo Trieu, another another young player that they've brought through the academy, but they do lose Roman True. I think that's quite big. He was such a key player for them. Don't know. Costa Storti will score 20 tries because he should be fit. Do we know if Sam Davis is fit at the start of the season? I don't know, but I think a lot hinges on that. And I think I was kind of like, oh, they don't have that much quality in the squad, and then you kind of forget, because he barely played last year, they do have Sam Davis, and that could make a hell of a lot of difference to their season. I haven't heard and I haven't seen how much Sam's been playing because he had that awful illness. So I think it hinges on that, because he's one of the now, because they haven't got that much experience either. They have signed, although I should say we'd commended Oyonnax for signing Darmon and Newsom. They have signed Lucas Tozan, who was I don't know why he kind of shuffled. He was quite good at Clermont in his first season, but former Toulouse player, played a good amount in a very good Toulouse team, top 14 experience. Like he should be very good at Pro D2 level.
Yeah, you would think so. Okay, anyone else you're seeing in that kind of maybe pushing the top six, the barrage, and slightly clear of the drop? I don't know if I'm more seeing this season being a bit of a top six and then throw a blanket over another 10 is maybe where I'm seeing it go. But yeah, where do you feel?
So we've got two very differing opinions on this is kind of where the blanket over top six, over the bottom 10 kind of becomes a thing, and they'll probably all be separated by about 5 points come the end of the season. But I've got Aurillac pushing for the top six. You've got them relatively low down. You've got Nevers pushing for the top six, and I think Nevers could really struggle. So yeah, I also think there could. I'm not ruling out Nissa challenging for the top six, because it didn't take that long for things to start clicking last year. And the quality of their squad was so much better than the rest of Nationale. And that step up, they were relatively tight against Mont-de-Marsan. And Mont-de-Marsan had some excellent performances last year. But we know that the step up from Nationale to Pro D2 is big. They've got good amount of quality in the squad, good amount of Pro D2 experience. They've shown that they can bring players together and get them working quickly. I just think, how quickly can you do that when the step up is, or when your playing squad is not quite as far ahead of everyone else as it was last year?
Yeah,
but they could fly through the league. Pardon the pun, because their logo is an eagle.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you. I think they do have a realistic nudge at the top six. I think the reason I think I've got them in like 10th or 11th is purely because that gap actually it is significant, right? But they've also got a lot of guys who are either playing in Pro D2 last year, coming in afresh, or coming down from the top 14. So that sort of shock factor, which I think they had a little bit when they came up 2 seasons ago, was it?
Yeah.
Hopefully will be removed slightly. And we've got Evan Olmsted, Henry Serger we just mentioned, Etienne Falgu, both Francis Saidi. Like, these are not guys who are going to be, I wouldn't say overwhelmed by that change, and obviously you've got to get them clicking together. But potentially as well, some of the stuff off season might have affected their preparation. Although I know a lot of the noises coming out of there were that it just kind of ticked on, and they waited for the finances and the administrative side to sort themselves. But yeah, I think they're fascinating. Nevers, I mean, I always feel like Nevers are sort of the ultimate blind spot. I do struggle. We don't often see them on like getting picked in the live games. They obviously really, like, the back end of last season was basically a total write-off, wasn't it? Until they kind of managed to steady the ship slightly towards the end. I just think they're a team that generally, with the exception of the second half of last season, have been quite steady. And they tend to recruit quite well. They have lost some decent
They've lost
players,
quite a decent amount of quality. Yeah,
a few guys like, I mean, there's the loads on there, but like Chris Gabriel's gone to Cast.
Kevin
Noah, like, yeah. There's
Zach Clarence was really good when he came in last year. Kieran Knox played absolutely loads for them. Gone to Ulster. Hugo Boissu played a lot. Le Boys played a lot. Matthias Malobra, who was really good first half of the season. Yeah.
Two signings that I think are really interesting though. One, Arnaud Bota, who obviously played loads at Lyon. Like, that's a proper big carrying 8 to come in. I think he'll have a fantastic year. And then the other one is actually bizarrely a bloke who tried to, I think he sort of put me on the spot slightly after I went to see Massey play last year. And the one guy that came to mind was out half of Massey called Anselme Cellier.
Heard it
Who,
here first, fans. Here
yeah.
we
So
go.
when he's lifting the Pro de shield and he's in a row Gautier squad, there you go. You heard it here first last November. But yeah, really just a really interesting signing. We'll see how he goes.
I just think the trajectory of last season, that you see it in loads of leagues, don't you?
Too precipitous.
Like you always see like the Premier League team that just stays off relegation on the last day just goes down quite comfortably the next, and like the ones that stay up or they have a good kind of great escape, like Leicester the year before they won the league, they had a bit of a great escape, didn't they? And then obviously no one predicted them to win the Premier League, but yeah. I just think the trajectory of their season last year was just so bad, and they lose a whole load of heft in that tight. You didn't mention one key player that they have lost, Richard, and that is of course Ilya Kaitashvili.
He of the scrap.
And I saw that Bezier also let go of their man.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. What's his name? I've forgotten his name now. Yusuf Amrouni. Yeah, so
that is a shame.
Both
not gone to any other clubs as well. Just looking now, that is feels like a
lost opportunity for someone.
Maybe like Newcastle Red Bulls or someone like that can sneak into abrasive props. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
they're up the Premiership.
Who do you see struggling? So I think Nevers could struggle. I think they could be. Did I have them going down? I think they might. I think I've got them 15th. Yeah, I've got them 15th. I think Narbonne are favourites for the drop.
Yeah, that
feels harsh, but
yeah, they're coming up with a budget slightly higher than both Dax and Aurillac, but I think we're kind of used to that to an extent. They weren't the best team they obviously came up. They weren't the best team in Nationale last year. Got some really there've been some punchy signings in there. Caleb Timu being probably
great signing,
the headline one, right? But I think there's no kind of discredit to
Alamalo's. I think he was at Chiefs and then he's Moana Pacifica, I think.
Yeah, they
Super Rugby experience.
I just think it can be. We've seen it's quite a big gap. They've also, I think, it's got Bastian Rodriguez, who is basically like the local Narbonne rugby journalist who covers it in real detail. I think they've let go of something like 31 players and brought in 26, which is not. I don't think it was quite as aggressive, but not entirely dissimilar to what their sort of near town neighbours Carcassonne did last year. And Carcassonne, they finished bottom, but they didn't disgrace themselves. I kind of wonder if it might be a similar thing with Narbonne. Show some pretty decent fight, push a lot of teams, but ultimately get cut adrift. It is a big gap, but it'd be interesting to see how they go.
Quite a lot of players retired, so that's a decent amount of experience as well that they would have lost. I think the gap is too big, and they don't have the kind of spending power, and they're like, you look at this just on names of signings. Nice is it's the fact Timu stands out as a really good signing, but there isn't a lot behind. Whereas if you look at the Nice ones, there's loads of decent signings in there. So yeah, it's tough to. I don't want to give. Narbonne will probably now finish 7th, so maybe I should write them off. I'm wearing my hat, but I am worried about our boys Sax V. I think perhaps. I don't know whether last season was second season syndrome or there's signs that perhaps they've gone a bit stale under Alex Ruiz. You never know whether, the on-field rant, whether there's that's a losing of the changing room. I know they did kind of win the following week, but that's never quite a good sign. The players may be behind him fully. They've made a few interesting signings. Getting a lot of experience and a lot of retirements gone, but we've seen Alex Ruiz work well with younger players. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards, and I don't know how much they're moving forward. The one that I've got struggling, it's got all the ingredients for an absolute disaster this season, is Bezier.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the trajectory of Nevers last year. Bezier had kind of gone from team that effectively had challenged the top of the table for the certainly last 3 or 4 years and really struggled last season. Lost their talisman in Samuel Marquez. It's been.
I've kind of just remembered that he isn't. That when they were challenging for the league, he was the best player in the league, and he was one of the best players in the league last year, and they just don't have him anymore. Like that is. I don't think that can be overstated. Just how critical Marquez. I've said it loads of times before. How critical he was to Carcassonne. They've got to replace one of the best nines in the league. They've got to replace their goal kicker, their main playmaker, their captain. Like it's minimum 4 players in one.
Yeah,
you just don't replace that. Plus, they've lost Otanuku Pauta, who was like top ball carrier in the league. Gontiniak, I know didn't play last year, but he's a really good player. Chris Judge had a really good season last year in the front row. Yeah, they've lost some quality.
They brought in some interesting guys though. I will say that.
Malachi Fekitoa, like cool, really
yeah,
cool.
that is cool. It is quite cool.
But that is why it's recipe for disaster because you're bringing in. Like, I mean, he's World Cup winning All Black. Like, fair enough, and he was really good at Treviso. I was so skeptical when he moved to Treviso, but he was pretty good for them. He could be. Maybe he can win it all on himself, but
they've got some interesting young guys like either on loan or signing fully. So the best name in the league, Jean Poulet from Perpignan, Joseph Laharag, who has started a fair bit for Bordeaux last year. I think they'll be expecting pretty big, or they'll need pretty big things from him. Mackenzie Martin as well, who is a proper player.
Yeah,
very young, going from Cardiff or Ospreys.
Maybe it's Cardiff. God, we've offended everyone in Wales there. Dragons. We've really offended everyone in Wales.
Got it properly wrong.
Yeah, they're all the same region anyway, mate. Welsh rugby. Well, they'll all be one region eventually.
Yeah, that's lazy. Yeah, but he's really highly rated, and yeah, there's some good guys there. But again,
Wales.
Yeah, right. It feels like there's a lot of turnover, and I don't know if it's a gamble because it's necessary, but it's relying on quite a few new moving parts to stick, and that's not going to be particularly straightforward. But tell you what they did get nearly 14,000 for their local derby pre-season friendly against Narbonne. So
which they did win.
So hopefully there'll be some decent attendances if nothing else, and if they get off to a bit of a flyer, who knows.
We've touched on most teams there. I'm going to back the LAC. I think they're going pretty well. I think they've
always back the LAC.
They've got some pretty Aurillac-looking signings, but they haven't lost too much. Lucas Udard has gone to Brive, I think, is a good player. Dax, I think, they've barely made any changes to their squad. I think this year there won't be that. I was trying to think of a way to describe it, but there won't be that kind of fuck you incentive that they had last year with the whole 14-point deduction. Maybe there is a chance that, like your interview that you did with Charlie Matthews last year, they consider themselves a top 6 side and they kind of had that form. There's a chance that they could kind of go again and use that spirit and punch above their weight. They did it 2 years before as well. So Dax are one of the teams that are hard to place, I'd say, but they were kind of last year as well. Biarritz, again, I don't know. I quite like some of their signings. Got surprisingly big budget for the league. I don't know if that's because Biarritz is quite an expensive place. Like that's the thing with like some of these is just the town is more expensive. But yeah, quite like the look of Iban Leclau. I was a big fan of him at Mont-de-Marsan. Looking forward to seeing him maybe play, maybe first choice 10 at Biarritz, youngster. Don't know where to place Biarritz either because we don't like.
It's a strange side, haven't they?
Yeah, but we've not seen enough green shoots in the previous seasons to suggest that there is going to be like tangible improvements. Like should do my research better. Like I don't know who's in charge of Biarritz and of Nevers and Bezier at the moment, but I think there's a reason behind that because they aren't the guys that have kind of got some good back catalogue on their CV. I may have done a complete drive-by on someone there, but
thorough as ever.
Yeah.
Go on then.
Get into lazy assumption territory now.
Should we wrap this up then with some I think we've basically kind of given our rough tables there, but do you want to run through yours quickly?
My table, I have Provence as the slight runaway leaders, Oyonnax in behind, Brive in third. I think Agen, Colomiers, Montauban will be very tight in 4, 5 and 6. Valence Romans just missing out on last year's efforts and coming seventh, backing the lack to finish eighth. Nissa with their good squad to kind of come together after a slowish start. They're going to finish ninth. Grenoble, not quite enough quality for me. They're 10th. Dax, haven't got the depth. They're 11th. Biarritz, who knows if they're good, 12th. Saxby, struggle again, 13th. Beziers, shambolic, but just avoid the drop. Nevers, going straight down. There is no access match again. I think they've got rid of it, haven't they? And then Narbonne, the new boys, or coming back up, going to struggle. Go on, what's yours?
Very good.
It's pretty similar.
It is quite similar, yeah. Provence, Oyonnax, Agen sneaking into third ahead of Brive. I think Grenoble are going to have a decent season, certainly compared to last year in fifth, and Montauban to maybe go from sixth back into the top 14 like they did a couple of years ago. I think Colomiers might just miss out on the top six last year, or this year rather. Backing the Nevers, miraculous turnaround, why not? And then Valence, Angoulême, Dax. Nissa, probably throw a blanket over those. Aurillac, Beziers to just avoid, well, maybe not just avoid, but to avoid the drop. Biarritz and Narbonne at the bottom. So looking forward to probably a Biarritz Beziers Pro Day Dare final come early June. You can almost mark that in for definite. Okay, Rob, all that leaves to do then is there's a small matter of a full round on the horizon Thursday evening. Pick of the bunch for you?
I am going to say the Jean-Baptiste Aldeget derby, Biarritz hosting Nissa. Anything could happen in that. I think it'll be interesting to see how Nissa kind of fare in their first game away at the Aguilera. I think that's quite an intriguing trip because it's not a fortress, but it's also Biarritz have generally been all right in terms of relegation the last couple of years. Old trip, really long old trip. Might actually be the furthest trip in Pro D2 this season.
Decent.
No, surely Biarritz to Oyonnax.
Decent snake along the coast, that. Yeah, nice. Provence Agen could be quite a lot of fun. I think Provence will come out the blocks pretty quickly. Agen have also then got to host Brive the week afterwards. I do almost wonder if even at this stage of the season they might have a little eye on that in terms of rotation. Yeah, intrigued as well to see. Well, they're all interesting setups, but how Narbonne go at Dax. If you're Dax are a really well coached and difficult side to beat, but if you have pretenses of making a fist a Pro Day Dare, you probably need to try and be pretty tight in that one. There'll be tougher places to go, and also Montauban on their return to the league over at Nevers. They did wobble a bit in pre-season, although I think they were a bit tighter in their kind of annual pre-season fixture against Cast. But yeah, could be quite an interesting one to gauge those two. Yeah,
it could be a few away wins. I wouldn't be surprised if Colomiers win away at Saxby.
Yeah, or in out at Beziers, possibly.
Montauban at Nevers.
Yeah, few on the cards. Well, it's back, Rob. It's back. That's all we need to say. The greatest league in the world is back.
Full set Thursday. I love that. I think that's got to be to max out the summer. Do they have a bank holiday in? That's a good point. Is it a bank holiday in France? I don't know.
I have no idea, because last year I think didn't they do it all on the Friday and one on the Saturday? There's always a little bit of fruitiness at the start of the year to get our eyes on it. Very good. Should we park Pro Day there? We'll be back in a moment to discuss a little bit of Nationale and some Petit Fours. Okay, Rob, there was the kickoff, the start of the French professional rugby calendar did occur last weekend while we were otherwise engaged on our stag do. But a few moments of note. One, there was only one away win, which was Massey going down to Périgueux, which even at this stage of the season, Massey and Périgueux have been there and thereabouts in the last 2 years, but decent win for the Parisians.
Yeah, wearing my Périgueux t-shirt today.
Very nice. Greg Hutley, who we've spoken to once or twice, his first game for Massey against his old club at 10, replacing the aforementioned Anselme Cellier, win away from home. So no doubt be pretty happy with that. I guess the other big headline was Orléans. Is that how you pronounce it? I probably absolutely killed that on their debut in Nationale, I think, in
I
the
think so,
third
yeah,
tier.
should be.
Pretty comfortable over Bourg-en-Bresse at home, which is very cool for them. And I think everything else,
Ren.
Rennes, who were really solid last year, weren't they?
Yeah,
But
they are
host,
looking to do a van. That is a kind of van. Rennes and Orléans are the kind of the two really aspirational clubs in National that are trying to kind of repeat the successes of Van and pull the north/northeast, northwest even up the,
properly
put it
on the
on the rugby
map.
map. Yeah,
Yeah, really impressive win over Chambéry, who have obviously again have very much been there and thereabouts in the last few seasons. As have Albi, who actually finished top last year, didn't they? But lost out on penalties, if I'm not mistaken,
yeah.
to Narbonne. They lost to their old rivals Carcassonne, who were pretty comfortable in Samuel Marquez's first game. As were Mont-de-Marsan over Vienne. I would imagine that might be top and bottom come the end of the season.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
Vienne's last time in the league they did struggle,
yeah.
but you never know. Another club kind of tucked in that sort of just south of Lyon. I
I want
think
to say they've
Vienne.
won a. I want to say Vienne are a former. Oh, I knew. No, I've said it now. I think they might have won a Brennis, but I'm not entirely sure. Let me check that. I might have fully. No, 1937. CS Vienne won the French championship. There you go.
The glory years are just around the corner. I have no doubt for Vienne.
They've got 11 years to do it on the 100th anniversary.
It's a tough trip first up against what you'd effectively say was
Another
quite a
former
good
Brennis
Pro
winner.
D2 side. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's the roundup from Nationale.
Go on then. We kind of cover what we can of National. Saying Mont-de-Marsan top,
Yeah, I
Vienne
think
bottom.
so.
I think Markham Bourgoin, but I think Bourg-en-Bresse will struggle. They kind of stayed up
Yeah,
due
I
to
think there's been
administrative
a couple
stuff.
of
I think Carcassonne, they've got, how are they ever going to lose a game? They've got Marquez and Bosville. They've got like
yeah,
just the experience in the halfbacks is unreal.
yeah.
I think
They'll be
Ren
tasty, won't
Ren
they?
could be the one to keep an eye on. I think that's a decent win against Chambéry.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see how they continue to stack up. Should we pile straight into Petit Fours then?
Yes.
Almost too much going on in recent times, really. But I think two things of note. There's a lot of quite fun pre-season stuff happening and has just happened. So I think Bath at the Stade Émile Giral against Perpignan this week. There's a Rog derby coming up. Munster v La Rochelle, Leinster at Lyon. Your boys Leicester Tigers were down in Béziers, beat them last week.
Yeah.
It's definitely a bit of a link there, isn't there, with this Loganberg guy and things between Leicester and Béziers, which is given how you feel their fortunes might go this year, maybe hopefully I guess your respective team's fortunes might be slightly different. But yeah, anything else caught your eye beyond some there's a lot of new kit coming out, and some
Well,
of
it
it's
was just
great and some of it is not so good.
I just went on our Instagram to see what I'd saved down, and I unsurprisingly perhaps got distracted by some modelling by Christian Ambariang, who is modelling the Castaway kit. That's quite
It's a
tasty.
belter, yeah, the little kind of vertical stripe.
Yeah, particularly if you're a Brighton fan, I imagine you'd like that kit.
Or
There have been
Sociedad.
Sociedad, yeah,
Yeah.
Sociedad fan. There have been some excellent videos. There's a really, if you go on the Claremont, I showed this, I bored you with this on Saturday already, Rich. But there's a video of kind of going through their kits down the years to announce their new kit. Some very cool footage, some very cool kind of drama, like I don't know. It's a really cool video. If you go on the Claremont Instagram, you'll see that. That's probably the best I've seen. I think, I saw there's some scrummaging in a pool on holiday between some Bayonne players, some Section Polwards players, and some Bordeaux players. I enjoyed that. But they're obviously on holiday together. You've got Maxime Lamont in there, Imric Luke, I think it is. Maybe Nathan De Cron, actually. But yeah, lads just getting involved in the on holiday. And there was a very enjoyable clip. Obviously, hopefully, no one at Union Bordeaux-Bègles has been impacted by the wildfires in Bordeaux. But in pre-season training, there is a video of Arthur Etienne just lying in a freezer.
Why not?
My other thing that I need to get off my chest is the top 14 official fan vote, which we've discussed, and just ridiculous. The official what gets announced by the official website. Just, I reckon I reckon Willis has played more than the rest of the pack put together almost. Just how they've reached some of those, like loose head lock. How much did Flamont play last year? He didn't do anything in the top 14. He didn't even start in the final. Yeah, just have you seen it?
You want a new? I think I have, but yeah, the Pro Day Deux one is all van, isn't it? Bar I think 2 players or something.
Yeah,
which is quite
there's
fun.
There's no Wainicolo in the top 14 one, and having done like the visuals to kind of set out the stats, it's absolutely farcical. Like how far ahead of the pack he was. No Garrick, no Plummer. Ben Tamathunas at tight head. Don't know why. Jean-Baptiste Gross, did he play that much in like, was he that good for Toulon? Yeah, just Brobery's in there, so I can calm down a little bit. But,
full head loss averted slightly.
Yeah, Willis, Nucci, Brobery are in there, so we can kind of accept that. And Atasogbe's in there, but he just didn't play. Just didn't play that much. Come on, guys, why do these people? Why did the top 14 website even put them in as an option? How has Flamont made it in there as an option?
Strong words to be had. The only other thing I've got, which actually was from probably a month or so ago, but it's quite a nice story. A guy called Valentin Tonin, who I think is a French player for Nîmes, RC Nîmois, but assume of Italian origin, has opened a pasta restaurant called Ragu in Nîmes, which actually looks really nice. And I did see some footage. The screenshot I've got here, there was some quite one of the bits of artwork on the wall was a photo of the Zidane headbutt. So I thought that was quite good value.
That is quite good value. Wonder if isn't Paul Valenza coaching at Nîmes now? Wonder if he's.
Is he?
Well, he was when he retired. Imagine he looks like a man that would get stuck into plate or two.
Could do a job on a bolognese. Yeah, very good. Right, Pro Day Deux is back. We are back, perhaps less excitingly. Rob, if anyone's listening for the first time or listening for the 101st time, where can they follow us, find us, get in touch with us?
We are at Rosbifs Rugby on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, X, YouTube. We are at Rosbifs Rugby on all of those. And if you would like summaries of all the stuff we've talked about, whether it's table predictions, the best signings, the players to watch in Pro Day Deux, how teams are going to fare, they will come at some point. But we will kind of try and do as much of the stuff that we did last year as well to kind of set up the league, and so that you've got all the stuff at your fingertips.
Yeah, plenty of exciting stuff to come. We're looking forward to it. But thank you for joining us for the first episode of our 4th crack at this. Rob, it's been fun. We'll speak next week. In the meantime, I've been Richard. That has been Rob. We've been the Rosbifs Rugby podcast. Au revoir.
Au revoir.